WNST this weekend. We'll be partying at Piranha's in Nashville. It's downtown Nashville off of 2nd and Broadway. We would love to see your face in the place on Friday night or anytime during the day on Saturday, as all purple roads lead there. And, of course, there is also one of the many, many hotbeds in the Deep South of college football. This guy covered college football for a long time for Fox Sports. He's still out on the internet and doing some turns as a freelance writer, as well as from time to time appearing on Fox Sports Radio. He is Aaron _Torres out on Twitter. He's out on the West Coast, but from the East Coast, and talking about football in the heartland. We welcome him back on. Big week, man, right? I mean, I had some upsets over the weekend, but more than that, the Penn State-Ohio State thing now sort of settled out, at least for the time being. Big Ten is a mess right now, and sort of sloppy with a lot of good teams, right?
Yeah, I wouldn't call it a mess at all. And I get what you're saying. It's a mess from a sense of who is the best team, who is maybe the third or fourth best team. You can make a case that 1 through 5 there maybe isn't a huge gap. But I think Big Ten's actually in great position right now, because you have a very realistic scenario where, look, there is a very real possibility that 3 teams can finish the season with 1 loss. When you think about Penn State, potentially not playing for a conference championship, could finish 11-1 like Ohio State last year. Wisconsin could run the table during the regular season and then play Ohio State in the conference championship game. And, of course, if Ohio State wins out, they'll be 12-1 and Big Ten champions. So there are 3 teams that are in really good position to make a run towards the playoff right now, and I think that's actually kind of one of the interesting storylines that's come out of the weekend. Is it feels like the Big Ten is in great shape to get 1, potentially 2, while a conference like the Big 12, the Pac-12, could be in real danger here. So I totally get what you're saying just about kind of the how everything has played out, but I wouldn't say it's a slog or a mess. I would say Jim Delaney's doing cartwheels in those Big Ten offices right now. He's got to be thrilled with the way the top of that conference looks right now.
But I also think that there's going to be plenty more to be said out on the football field. And, certainly we see Michigan next week, and Maryland has announced that game time as a 3:30 game. But then you look at the rest of these schedules here for these other teams, and certainly, Michigan stands on the edge of being able to really wreck a season here, right?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting, especially with Michigan State losing this past weekend in Northwestern. I think Michigan and Michigan State are both, really left to be a spoiler at this point. Michigan still has Wisconsin on the schedule, still has Ohio State on the schedule, and the team that everyone forgets about is Michigan State. Look, I think we probably got a little too excited about them after that Michigan win. I think that may be more of an indictment of the fact that Michigan just isn't as good as we thought they were, as opposed to it being a great win for Michigan State. But keep in mind with Michigan State, Urban Meyer right now is he's batting about .850 in his time at Ohio State. He's only got 7 career losses since he's got to Ohio State. He's now in year 6, I believe.
It's almost Saban-like.
It's unbelievable, Nestor. And I mean, unfortunately, you and Terps fans have to see it firsthand. But the thing that people forget, 2 of those losses were to Michigan State. And in both cases, you could argue it cost Ohio State a shot at the national championship that first year in the Big Ten title game, when Ohio State was undefeated in the final year of the BCS. And then, of course, that great year where they returned virtually everybody from a national championship team and lost to the Spartans late. So you talk about 2 teams that could absolutely play spoiler. It's Michigan and Michigan State. One more note on Michigan that's worth paying attention to. It looks like they might finally have a quarterback. They have a true freshman named Brandon Peters, highly recruited, and Jim Harbaugh was hesitant to throw him into the fire, but there was really no other choice last weekend against Rutgers. He responded well. The offense looked different. And all of a sudden, if Michigan has a quarterback, there's a very realistic possibility that their ceiling as a team is much higher than it was with John O'Korn or Wilton Speight.
Some thoughts about Ohio State and them winning the game, and coming back and the resiliency and all of that, and then sort of the deep fade that Penn State went through and looking like, an hour into the game, like, well, how are they going to screw this up? Well, they did.
Yeah, it was an unbelievable game, man. And, it was one of those weird games where, and we see a couple of these every year, where you just you're sitting there and Penn State takes this giant lead. They kind of just are making enough plays. one, credit to Ohio State because it never felt like the game got away from them. Obviously, it literally didn't. But they played actually pretty good football when you consider that they gave up, a kickoff return for a touchdown and then had an interception overturned that then became a touchdown for Penn State, is that they actually played pretty good across the board for most of that game, but it still felt like one of those games where it was like, do they have enough offense? Can they really make this comeback? And then all of a sudden you look up and the game's over and Ohio State won, and I don't think anybody really could even kind of fully wrap their head around what happened. It was an unbelievable game, both for the Ohio State win, but also, man, you got to feel bad for James Franklin and this club. You know, last year they beat Ohio State head-to-head, get left out of the playoff because of the playoff committee. At the time, I said James Franklin needed to stamp his feet and throw a fit because you just never know if you're going to get the opportunity to get back on that stage to a potential playoff to play for a national championship. At the time, he took the high road. He said, we'll be back next year. Well, here we are a year later, and it's looking like the same thing. Ohio State is blocking his path to the playoff. I feel terrible for that program and their fans, but the better team on the field won Saturday, and unfortunately, they were the guys in the scarlet and gray.
He is Aaron_Torres out on Twitter, long time at Fox Sports, now with Fox Sports Radio, as well as freelancing in various spots and talking college football and soon to be talking college basketball as well. Ooh. But how about those Georgia Bulldogs? Huh? I mean, certainly from my childhood and Herschel Walker back in those days to where they are and Buck Bellew and all that stuff. Hey, man, they're in this picture. They're very much a part of it. And I tell you what, the cocktail party got the Florida coach fired. So I don't know what, other than winning a national championship, I don't know what more you could want if you're a Georgia Bulldogs fan, right?
I'm with you, man. It was unbelievable, everything that transpired. I mean, look, first of all, Georgia's awesome. And I mean, you talk about, we've been talking about multiple playoff scenarios right now. How about the fact that what if Notre Dame runs the table, finishes 11-1 against that brutal schedule, their only losses to Georgia, and Georgia's only losses to Alabama in the SEC championship game? You talk about a conundrum that the playoff committee would find themselves in. That's it right there. But there's still obviously a lot of football to be played. Georgia still has to close this thing out. But one, I thought Saturday was about how great they have become in year two under Kirby Smart. The second thing I would add, by the way, is that Florida story is unbelievable. I mean, last week, I'm not even talking a month ago, a year ago. I'm talking 5 days ago, 4 days ago, we're talking about the SEC and the hot seat and Butch Jones and Brett Bielema and, even Ed Orgeron when he lost to Troy, and then Kevin Sumlin loses. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, Florida comes out and fires their coach. There were rumors that started Saturday morning. The school kind of shot them down. And then by the end of the day, it was very clear that they were doing everything they could to get rid of Jim McElwain. So it was unbelievable. And now, by the way, we got our jump start on the college football coaching carousel. We'll be curious to see who gets in the mix there. But great day for Georgia. You could argue, if you're a Florida fan, it was a great day for the Gators, too, because the Dogs put the final nail in the Jim McElwain coffin. It'll be fascinating to see who gets that job going forward.
Did we ever figure out who the guy on the Shark was?
Yeah, we did. Reportedly, this was not my Pulitzer-winning work here. It was some cop from New York or something like that. But the crazy story about that was that he had to go into hiding because, PETA people were coming after him or something like that. I can't remember all the details. I'm sure you can find it on the internet.
Yeah, it's the internet. It's a big place. I mean, there's there's nowhere to run, nowhere to hide. You're not running and hiding, though, right?
No. First of all, I've never committed such an egregious act. One thing I'll say, though, Nestor, about that whole situation, that was when I kind of thought that maybe Jim McElwain just wasn't cut out for the SEC, because I don't know if you remember, but right around SEC Media Days is when this story first broke, and I think it was cleared up maybe a day or two before Media Days, and Jim McElwain's at the podium basically holding back tears, saying how devastating it was for him and his family and the jokes and the internet memes and all that stuff.
Instead of just saying it's not me. How about that?
Yeah, it's not me, and listen, there's a million ways to have a good laugh at that, especially when it is proven that it isn't you.
Exactly. When you say it looks a lot like me, it's the damnest thing, isn't it? Right? I mean, I don't know what else to say, but it really did get tied to him, though, right? Didn't it? I mean, it was.
Well, it did, but it also he allowed it to become a bigger deal than it would have been. Like I said, if he goes to the podium, if it's clear that it isn't him, and he says, look, guys, here's the truth. You guys know me well. You know I prefer dolphins. You know I prefer killer whales. Sharks aren't my thing. Like, that's it right there, and he becomes, Steve Spurrier 2.0, and everybody loves him.
They're printing T-shirts.
They're printing T-shirts, but when you're up there crying on the podium, Nestor, we've all, you've covered sports, I've covered sports. Fan bases, if they don't like you, and I hate to use a bad pun, but if they smell blood in the water, they're going to come after you. And the SEC is no place for the faint of heart, for the weak of heart. And when I saw that, I was like, dude, he ain't cut from that Spurrier, Petrino, Saban, kind of FU cloth, that thick skin that you need to win in that conference. I mean, I didn't think it was going to happen this quickly, but you talk about that Shark thing, that to me was kind of when I was like, I just don't think this guy is going to work at this school. They have a tough fan base. They're a fan base that is relentless. I think they broke him down as much as opposing, offenses and defenses did.
He's no Lane Kiffin, I'll tell you that. Aaron Torres joining us here, a longtime college football insider. It's all brought to you by our friends at G&A Coney Island Hot Dog. They are the best hot dogs in the world. They're on the east side. I've been eating them since I was a kid growing up. Get some crowd on there, or maybe throw you down a cheeseburger with some chili on there as well. G&A Coney Island Hot Dog, open for breakfast. Give Andy our love, and tell him to do the hot dog on the arm trick there with the. Tell him I'm ketchup and relish. I'm not much of a mustard guy at all. Also want to give a shout-out to our friends at Fremont Mortgage. Don't make a 30-year mistake by choosing the wrong lender. Choose the right lender. It's Fremont Mortgage. You can find them at Freedmont.com. And, of course, Carl Delmont joined us here earlier this week. You can check that out in the BuyAToyota.com audio vault. Aaron Torres can be found on Twitter at Aaron_Torres. That's Torres with an S. Don't mind that picture of him with Antonio Brown in the Steelers jersey. It's not real. For the Terps to be where they are right now, I usually lead with the Terps when they're, 1-0 or 2-1 or 3-1 or anything. You lose to Northwestern. Now Northwestern beats Michigan State, so there's something to be said for that. But certainly the Terps have this turn in their calendar coming here with Michigan State and Michigan and Penn State coming down the pike on their fourth quarterback. I don't know what to say. It's very, very tough to judge them on sort of this incomplete report card when they haven't had a real quarterback all year,
Well, and the other thing you got to consider with the Terps is that a lot of teams that on paper, first of all, you beat Texas, which is a great, great, great thing. Obviously, that goes without saying.
And that's when the real team was together. That was when all the prosperity was there saying, this is what our real team is. And, it's a shadow of that now, really. I mean, watching them run around with Indiana the other day.
It's a shadow of that. And look, they had some, let's just put it this way, they had some very unfortunate scheduling breaks. Happening to catch Central Florida, when Scott Frost literally puts it together and they now have the college football's highest scoring offense. I mean, that's just bad timing. The fact that you get Wisconsin this year when most years their crossover games are Ohio State or Penn State, that's unfortunate, as they might be maybe the best team certainly in that division, and shoot, maybe time will tell that they're the best team in this conference. And then also, by the way, you miss the fact that you don't get Illinois, you don't get Nebraska. I mean, it was just a tough year for DJ Durkin, not only in the injury column, but just in how the breaks of the schedule fell. Like I said, a historically good Central Florida team. This is the best team they'll probably ever have in our lives, Nestor. And then the big stuff in the Big Ten. So look, man, I've come on this show many times, and I believe in DJ Durkin. I believe in what he's building and what he's capable of. He's recruited very well there. He's coached under the sharp guys in this business, the Urban Meyers and the Jim Harbaughs. But like you said, man, it's just kind of a confluence of events that it just feels like, man, it just might not be the Terps' year.
He is Aaron_Torres out there. You can follow him as we get ready for bowl season. I know you're like all about the hardwoods right now too, right? I mean, you haven't sunk your teeth into it yet, but you're waiting out there. We got a lot of press conferences and stuff going on the next couple of weeks here. We're going to be playing basketball next week, right?
Unbelievable. It's coming up fast. Yeah, I'm actually, UCLA has an exhibition I'll be going to, a couple other things throughout the coming weeks. It's coming up way too fast. And I can't believe it. We're closing in on, we're here in November now. I don't know where the time goes, man. How was your fall? I don't even think we've talked the last couple weeks.
You know what, man? It's been crazy. I lost my mom in the summer, lost my cat in the fall. Man. We replaced my cat. We have a beautiful new cat. And other than that, the Ravens are 4-4. The Caps have gotten off to a rocky start, and the Orioles are about to go through hell here in the offseason. And that's not even to mention indictments in politics 38 miles away. But, hey, man, you know, it's busy around here. And I tell you what, the Ravens part of this thing, we're going to Nashville this weekend. We're throwing some parties down at a place called Piranhas in Nashville this Friday and Saturday. You know, I don't know what to make of our football team either, Aaron. I mean, injuries are such a part of football in general. You know, we see a kid, having surgery with the thoughts he might lose his leg in the middle of the night on Sunday night in this league. I mean, we've seen star quarter. We're playing in Green Bay 2 weeks from now. We're going up there. No Aaron Rodgers. Better for winning, but not better for the NFL. So, I just think, across looking at Michigan, looking at Maryland, it's hit the college football side as well, where the injuries are there. It's a rough game, and it's getting rougher, and these injuries really, really are affecting seasons in a major, major way, I think, across the NFL more than ever.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, I'm not, I follow the NFL, obviously, working Fox Sports Radio. You got to be in tune. But outside of that Dolphins game the other night, I haven't paid particularly close attention to the Ravens, and I don't know if that game was more of an indictment on how the Ravens are vastly improving or how bad the Dolphins may be. But, yeah, no, football's in a funny place, man, but it is hard to believe how quickly the calendar changed from August to September. We were just getting fired up. Now the NFL's reached the midway point. We're coming down the home stretch. The college football regular season goes by way too fast, Nestor.
Hey, brother, we'll see you down the line. We'll certainly check in here as we get closer to bowl season. It's always great to talk some football with you, Aaron. Thanks for coming on, man.
Thanks, Nestor. Have a good day.
You got it. Aaron_Torres. That's with an S. Former Fox Sports insider, now doing some Fox Sports Radio and covering college hoops and football anywhere the internet goes, on Twitter at Aaron_Torres. You can find me out on the buy at Toyota.com Audio Vault 24 hours a day from anywhere in the world on your mobile device by downloading the TuneIn Radio app. I want to give a shout out to our friends at Costas Inn. Good enough for the Today Show and good enough for my mom. We had some fat crabs over there on the Dundalk side of things a couple weeks ago when I went into the Dundalk High Hall of Fame. We put some fun pictures up, had some friends out. My friend Don Moeller and the great Mike Rosigliano drew me some incredible Hall of Fame artwork that I'm featuring on my leg lamp on the Facebook Live and YouTube WNS TV channel as well. You can get the Costas. You can ship the crab cakes. Kathy Lee and Hoda do it all the time. The legend continues. CostasIn.com is the way to find them as well. You can find me anytime, anywhere on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Snapchat, Instagram, streaming live on our Facebook as well as our YouTube WNS TV channel. I am Nestor. We are WNST.net, AM 1570, and WNST Towson, Baltimore, and we never stop talking Baltimore sports.